नमस्ते बिटिया, हमेशा खुश रहो बिटिया। Myself JVN Dr. Astha Sikarwar, Assistant Professor, Department of Organ of Medicine, Faculty of Homeopathic Science, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University, Jaipur. Today's topic is evolution of medical practice of the ancient. Prehistoric medicine 8000 to 5000 BC. The supernatural theory of disease. Prehistoric man attributed disease, all human suffering and calamities to the wrath of gods, invasion of the body by evil spirits, or to the influence of stars and planets. Treatment methods: pleasing the god by means of prayers or rituals and sacrifices, driving out of the evil spirits by witchcraft and other crude means, protection against the influence of evil spirits by the use of charms and amulets, magical rituals, use of some knowledge of herbs as cures, for example, violets as a cough medicine. Aborigines took care to bury to their cast of hair, nails, and their excrement because they believed this would warn off the evil spirits. Trephaning. Trephaning was one of the primitive forms of surgery performed in the prehistoric era. Ancient skulls have been found with a hole bored into them. This appears to have been a deliberate operation and carried out whilst the person was still alive. It was used in the treatment of epilepsy, infantile convulsions, and headache, which were caused by confined demons. Egyptian medicine 3300 1000 BC. Most famous of the Egyptian physicians is Imhotep, who is also renowned for his role as a pyramid designer. Physicians such as Imhotep used a variety of methods to heal patients, but based much of their practice upon religious belief. Physicians in ancient Egypt were also priests. It was common for different priests to act as physicians for different parts of the body in much the same way that doctors specialize now, as they believed that different gods govern different parts of the human body. Papyrus document: the Edwin Smith papyrus, the Ebers papyrus, the Kahun gynecological papyrus, the Berlin medical papyrus pediatrics, the London medical papyrus deals with preservation of body. The Hearst medical papyrus repeats many of the recipes found in the Ebers papyrus. The Edwin Smith Papyrus describes surgical diagnosis and treatments, opens with texts concerning head wounds, wounds of the face, how to deal with injuries to throat and neck, collarbones and arms, and chest complaints. They knew how to treat injuries to the brain without killing the patient, but on the whole, their understanding of the brain and its functions was superficial. They considered thinking to be a function of the heart. They had some anatomical knowledge, though had made the connection between pulse and heart, but did not have any understanding of the circulation of the blood. The Ebers papyrus describes on ophthalmology diseases of the digestive system, the head, the skin, and specific maladies like urinary tract disease. It contains description about 800 drugs. The Kahun gynecological papyrus, fertility contraceptives, silphinum, honey, and natron, soaked cotton in a paste of dates and acacia bark. Pregnancy test: put some barley and some wheat into 2 bags of cloth, which the woman will moisten with her urine every day. Equally barley and grain in the 2 bags. If both the barley and the wheat sprout, she will give birth. If only the barley germinates, it will be a boy. If it is the wheat which alone germinates, it will be a girl. If neither germinates, she will not give birth. Herbs: opium, cannabis, myrrh, frankincense, fennel, cacacia, sennia, thyme, henna, juniper, aloe, linseed, and castor oil. Raw garlic was routinely given to the asthmatics and to those suffering with bronchial pulmonary complaints. Onions helped against problems of the digestive system. Coriander was considered to have cooling, stimulant, carminative, and digestive properties. It both the seeds and the plants were used as a spice in cooking to prevent and eliminate flatulence. They were also taken as a tea for stomach and all kinds of urinary complaints, including cystitis, one of the herbs offered to the gods by the king. Cumin seeds were considered to be stimulant and effective against flatulence. Tannic acid derived from acacia seeds commonly helped for cooling the vessels and heel burns. Castor oil, figs, and dates were used as laxatives. Tapeworms were dealt with by an infusion of pomegranate root in water. The alkaloids contained in it paralyzes the worms. Ulcers were treated with yeast, as were stomach ailments. Man- Mandrake, introduced from Canaan and grown locally since it was thought to be an aphrodisiac. The Persian henna was used against hair loss. They treated catarrh with aloe. Animal products and minerals. Honey and grease formed part of many wound treatments. Mother's milk was occasionally given against viral diseases like the common cold. Fresh meat laid on open wounds and sprains, and animal dung was thought to be effective at times. Malachite, used as an eyeliner, also had therapeutic value. Mesopotamian medicine, 3668 BC. The origin of the civilization can be traced to a group of people living in southern Mesopotamia called the Sumerians. By 3500 BC, the Sumerians had developed many of the features that characterize subsequent civilizations. True civilization is said to have begun around 3100 BC with the development of cuneiform writing. Cuneiform writing was a system of writing established by the Sumerians which required the use of a stylus in order to make wedge-shaped marks on wet clay tablets. Once the tablets were dry, they could be stored, transported, etc. Many of the tablets that do mention medical practices have survived from the library of Ashurbanipal, the last great king of Assyria, 668 BC. Mesopotamian diseases are often blamed on pre-existing spirits, gods, ghosts, etc. Each spirit was held responsible for disease in a specific part of the body. It can also be shown that the plants used in the treatment were generally used to treat the symptoms of the disease. Specific offsprings were made to a particular god or ghost when it was considered to be a causative factor. There were two distinct types of professional medical practitioners in ancient Mesopotamia: Ashipu and Ashu. Roles of the Ashipu was to diagnose the ailments. In case of internal diseases, this most often meant that the Ashipu determined which god or demon was causing the illness. The Ashipu was attempted to determine if the disease was the result of some error or sin on the parts of the patient. The Ashipu could also attempt to cure the patient by means of charms and spells that were designed to antic away or drive out the spirit causing the disease. The Ashipu could also refer the patient to a different types of healer called as Ashu. Ashu was a specialist in herbal remedies. In treating wounds, the Ashu generally relied on three fundamental techniques: washing, bandaging, and making plasters. Ashu made plasters by heating of plant resin or animal fat with alkali. This particular mixture, when heated, yields soap which could have helped to ward off bacterial infection. The relationship between the Ashupu and the Ashu is not entirely clear. The two kinds of healers seem to have worked together in order to obtain cures. The wealthiest patients probably sought medical attention from both as Ashipu and Ashu in order to cure an illness. Ashipu and the Ashu often worked in cooperation with each other in order to treat certain ailments. Beyond sharing patients, there seems to have been some overlap between the skills of the two types of healers. Law Code of Hammurabi. It was not a code of law in the modern sense, but probably a collection of legal decisions made by Hammurabi 1700 BC in the course of his activities as a judge and the published to advertise his justice. Several similar collections are known from other areas and periods, and Hammurabi's cannot be taken as representative of all Mesopotamian justice. In fact, it is outstanding for its application of the principle of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, while other courts allow momentary penalties. If a surgeon operated and saved the life of a person of high status, the patient was to pay 10 shekels of silver. If the surgeon saved the life of a slave, he only received 2 shekels. However, if a person of high status died as a result of surgery, the surgeon risked having his cut hand cut off, while if a slave died from receiving surgical treatment, the surgeon only had to pay to replace the slave. Temple of Gula. Temple Gulu was one of the alternative methods for producing health in Mesopotamia. Patients were not housed at the temple while they were treated. These temples may have been sites for the diagnosis of illness. These temples were also libraries that held many useful medical texts. Chinese medicine, 3500 to 500 BC. The archaeological discoveries of the last few decades reveal that during the 2 centuries of the Western Han Dynasty, 206 BC, Chinese medical thought underwent a process of comprehensive standardization and systematization. Ugandi, Nanjing, Shillong, Pentsos. Ugandi was the one who taught pupils the knowledge of raising silkworms, riding boats and carriages. He was one who invented writing, music, and medicine. The Ugandi Neijing is one of the first and undoubtedly the most important classic in the history of Chinese medicine, which had an enormous influence on the medical thought in later centuries. The book records the dialogue between the Yellow Emperor and some of his sage physicians on medical issues. The emperor's questions encompass every possible aspects of diagnostics, pathological pathology and acupuncture, including both theory and practice, and the sage teachers give detailed explanation on each topic. The Chinese sees to prostate problem as one of dampness and thus treated accordingly. Migraine is a liver and blood disorder. The practitioner states the disorders in terms of the patterns they display. There are the 8 fundamental patterns. 8 fundamental patterns: interior, exterior, heat, cold, access, deficiency, yin and yang. Interior and exterior patterns show the practitioner the location of the disease. Interior patterns of the disorders are chronic. Signs include unusual changes in urine and stool, pain and discomfort in the body, and no inhibition to cold or wind. Exterior patterns of disorder often arise quickly and are acute. Signs include chills, fevers, and aversion to cold and general aches and pains. Heat and cold signify the body's activity with the nature of the disease. Cold signifying deficient yang or external harmful cold. Cold slows the body, making the person lethargic. Warmth lessens pain. Heat signifies invasion of external harmful heat, a lessening of yin and excess yang. Heat extends the body's activities. Maybe the person will speak incessantly and have the need for cold liquids. Deficiency and excess signifies the effect of the disorder on the body's natural resistance. Deficiency is a sign of weakness in the body, a pale, sickly appearance, profuse sweating, shallow breathing, and pain lessened with pressure are symptoms. Excess is hyperactivity in the body, difficult to stay still, heavy breathing, and pressure increased pain are symptoms. Yin and yang are the opposing but complementary in nature. Yin is feminine and emphasizes interior cold and deficiency. Yang is masculine and emphasizes exterior heat and excess. If yin and yang are in the balance, the body is healthy, but imbalance signifies ill health. The Chinese sees the human body as a cosmos is harmony with nature, internal harmony and mental and physical harmony. A person's voice, breathing, and or cold while at the practitioner in identifying disorders. A too high voice and or an abrupt major cough will signify excess. A weak quiet voice and or with a weak cough signifies deficiency. Losing your voice or croakiness can signify either deficiency or excess. Wheezing indicates dampness. Two orders indicate the presence of disorder. A fall order from a discharge indicates heat and excess. Less of an order signifies cold or deficiency. In China, Qi is a form of energy flowing along unseen meridian channels throughout the body. Qi is not visible. Everything in the universe has Qi. The human body is a type of Qi. Qi Gong is a popular Chinese exercise involving breathing and meditation for physical and spiritual well-being. Herbs. There are five flavors familiar with herbs. Bitter herbs remove heat from the body, cure coughing and vomiting, help constipation, and are guard food for the heart. Sweet herbs are beneficial for the spleen, pain reduction, and restoring harmony and energy. Pungent herbs aid circulation, the lungs, and mild ailments. Sour herbs aid the liver, used to treat diarrhea and prevent pus. Salty herbs are also aid constipation for the thyroid, abdominal, and kidney problems. Acupuncture. Acupuncture is a common form of Chinese treatment. Acupuncture also helped ailments from flu to chronic pain. Chinese studies have shown that external stimulation of the body affects the internal body. There are hundreds of the acupuncture points over the entire body. One point to numerous points is each associated with an organ or a location in the internal body. The pressures of the needles are not painful. Indian medicine 5000 BC. Ayurveda Devanagari or Ayurvedic medicine is an ancient system and philosophy of health care native to the Indian subcontinent. The word Ayu meaning life, life principle, or longevity, and the word Veda, which refers to a system of knowledge or wisdom. Thus, Ayurveda roughly translates as the wisdom for living or knowledge of a long live, long life. Ashtanga branches of Ayurveda: internal medicine, pediatric psychology, ear, eye, nose, throat, surgery, toxicology, rejuvenation, fertility therapy. Dhanvantari is considered as the god of Ayurveda. Ayurveda was first described in text form by Agnivesha in his book The Agnivesha Tantra. Charaka edited the book known as Charak Samhita. Shruta Samhita, compiled by Shruta, the primary pupil of Dhanvantari sometime around 1000 BC. Sushrut is known as the father of surgery. In the Sushrut Samhita, the teachings and the surgical techniques of Dhanvantari are compiled and complemented with additional findings and observation of Sushrut regarding topics ranging from obstetrics and orthopedics to ophthalmology. Shruta Samhita, together with Charak Samhita, served as the textual material within the ancient universities of Takshila and Nalanda. These texts were based on a holistic approach rooted in the philosophy of the Vedas and Vedic culture. Holism is central to Ayurvedic philosophy, and elements of holism are found in several aspects of Ayurveda. Sapt Dhatu. Sapt means seven, and the word Dhatu refers to various types of tissues the human body is made of. The word Dhatu in Sanskrit means that which forms the body. The root dha means support and the dhatu sustain the body. Rasa, Rakta, Mamsa, Metsa, Asti, Maja, Shukla. Dosha. The central concepts of Ayurvedic medicine is the theory that health exists when there is a balance between three fundamental bodily humours or doshas. Tridosha. Vata, Pitta, Kapha. What is the dynamic kinetic principle necessary to mobilize anything from electron to a galaxy? Air is the representative in an abstract sense. Pitta is a thermal explosive force behind the ability to transform everything. Sun is the representative. Kapha is the cohesion that holds everything together with its electromagnetic and gravitational forces. Disease management. Shamana and Sodhana are the two concepts of disease management in Ayurveda. In Shamana, usually medicines are given internally, whereas in Shodhana, external treatments are given. Shodhana karma has two Purva Karma for preparing the patient's body for treatment. There is Snehana and Shvedana. Shamana means elevation, Shodhana means elimination. Shodhana methods aim to the elimination of the basic cause of diseases. Five types of Shodhana, which is well known as Panchkarma. Panchkarma, Vamana, Virechana, Naisya, Basti, Rakt, Mokshana. Greek medicine. Greeks are the civilizers of the world. The leaders of the Greek system of medicine were Asclepius BC 1200. He is the person who designed the symbol of the medicine. He has two daughters. Hygienia was worshipped with the goddess of the health and the Panacea goddess of Panakia, sorry, goddess of medicine. They gave rise to system of medicine that is preventive and curative medicine. Hippocrates, the greatest Greek physician was Hippocrates, 460 BC. He was called as the father of medicine. His studies and classification of disease was based on observation and reasoning. For this purpose, he introduced clinical method in medicine. His collection of writings called as Corpus Hippocraticum. These writings are famous for the aphorism. The first aphorism reads as life is short, art is long, opportunity fleeting, experiment dangerous, and judgment difficult. He advised doctors to do the right thing at the right time and advised to focus attention on the patient. From the natural study of the patient, he was able to give the prognosis of the case. The classical description of the Hippocratic facies is the best example of this. The position of the patient, nature of respiration, appearance of sputum were stressed by him for this purpose. He used medicine rarely for treatment and depended mainly on vis medicatrix naturae. Hippocrates attributed diseases to disturbance of four humus blood, phlegma, yellow bile, and black bile. He formulated the code of conduct to the physician, which is called the Hippocratic Oath. Other important personalities during this period: Aristotle, BC 384-322. He followed Hippocrates and approved the concept of humors forwarded by Hippocrates. He gave importance to the comparative study of anatomy and embryology and gave description of entire word and its classification. Theophrastus was a botanist and explained the use of plants for therapeutics. Dioscorides, he was a surgeon to Emperor Nero. He compiled books on materia medica and explained the use of lead, copper, and 600 plants. Asclepiades, he was against depending wholly on the nature of cure. He advised the active role of the physician. He advised C222 eat jucondo speedily, safely, and agreeably. He considered health as the balance between tension and relaxation. Aretas, he classified diseases into acute and chronic one. This session powered by digital version 2.0 Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. I hope you are satisfied with my digital session. If you have any query, please mention it in comment box. I will resolve it. Thank you.